So whenever I'm traveling, I carry two books with me. One can be any latest international affairs book, random, and one is Outliers from Malcolm Gladwell. And I'm always fascinated by its second chapter, which I want to read a bit to my audience. The trouble with geniuses. So there used to be a television show in the US back in 2008, 1 versus 100, where a genius is invited and there is a setup of a mob of 100 guys where you need to convince them and win $1 million. So in that particular show, they invited Christopher Langan. So I'm going to straight go what he says. You don't think you need to have a high intellect to do well on 1 versus 100, do you? The show host, Bob Saget, asked him. Saget looked at Langan oddly, as if he was some kind of laboratory specimen. Actually, I think it could be a hindrance, Langan replied. He had a deep, certain voice. To have a high IQ, you tend to specialize, think deep thoughts, you avoid trivia. But now that I see these people, he glanced at the mob, the amusement in his eyes betraying just how ridiculous he found the proceedings. I think I'll do okay. Today show is a bit of very, let's say, very highly tech, but also a bit of philosophy and art in it. And today we have a very special guest from one of the leading technology and telco companies. Without further ado, the name of my special guest is Edwin Diender, and I would request him to introduce himself to the audience. Welcome, Edwin. How are you?
Thank you for having me, Riz. And I just heard you say that you want me to introduce myself, but you did it already perfect. My name has never been pronounced better than you just did. Thank you for having me. Over to you.
It's a true pleasure. Thank you so much. What I meant with introduction was I want our audience to know a bit about you, who you are, and what kind of plenty of roles you're involved in these days. Over to you.
Well, I think it's only one role that comprises different activities and make me part of programs and initiatives that makes it wide and broad. I am Chief Digital Transformation Officer in our Enterprise Business Group, where I help our customers and our partners with their digital journey. But I'm also a Vice President for Government and Public Utility sector in our Global Government Business Unit, which means I look after solutions that we label smart together with a team of people and that we bring to market, along with messages, thought leadership, knowledge sharing, awareness creation. And around all these initiatives internally, going externally and going to market, are a few programs that I'm also fortunate enough to be part of. Programs in the domain of sustainability, for example, tech for all, tech for good, intelligent connectivity, intelligent smart city, digital platform. And within Huawei, these are different groups of people from different sides and places of the company, and they work together basically to get these programs going and move and allow things to move higher up the value chain. That's a bit of my background. You said my name very well, actually, Edwin Diender, and I work for Huawei Technologies, which I joined at the end of 2011 already, for West Europe, helping set up industry solution sales practices for Huawei Enterprise that did not exist before 2011, and that was just formalized. So if you think today, 2020, what Huawei Enterprise is, we're not an old company, so to speak, within a very old company with a long history and a strong footprint in innovation, research, and development. That's me and where I am and where I'm from. I am based in China, working out of our head office in Shenzhen, but I'm looking after our global markets from there. So I travel a lot, but not now because of COVID. Travel is reduced tremendously. Actually, travel is not reduced. Travel has gone down to zero. There's no travel. The only travel is from my kitchen to the supermarket to get groceries and then back to the kitchen so I can cook. That's the travel. But the virtual travel and the digital travel is like this. I'm currently in Thailand, in Bangkok. You're in Johannesburg. So basically we both cover, you know, already half of the world just with this talk. And again, thank you for having me.
Wow. Well, that's a lot of portfolios, and we're going to learn how you manage them and run all of them successfully. To my audience, 30 years is a very, very intense and long time in hardcore technology industry, which Edwin has. And that was my idea, to have him on the show to really take a deep dive and talk about, you know, the very high-tech areas of our industry, all the hype around all these emerging technology, all these buzzwords. You were right, Edwin, when you know, you talked about how we are coping up with this reality of COVID-19, and everything is digital, and we're sitting across different parts of the world and able to connect seamlessly. And that's really brilliant. To me, it's magic. I think technology is, to me, you know, the engineers and the tech persons are not only engineers, but they are also artists and sort of architects. And that's why when you see tech gadgets and products, they are beautiful. They are sort of a digital painting, which comes really nicely when the work is finished. So let's straight jump to the first and the very important question, which everyone talks about these days. And for the last couple of years, it has become a sort of talk of town in tech industry. Everyone, you know, it's sort of fashion. We start off with the word emerging technology and digital transformation. And many people have noticed sometimes, you know, they sort of have no clue what they're talking about, what it actually means. So I would like to ask you, and you know, please educate our audience, 101 of digital transformation, like textbook, and then what it actually means for technology companies and other businesses, and what it means for organizations in making key decisions around core functions of the company, and then when different functions department work more closely and digitally, so how the systems and overall operations perform. Over to you.
Sure. Let's go back a few steps, if you don't mind, and let's go back to college. Let's go back to MIT. MIT has comprised a three-step, three-stage, like a stepping stone kind of way forward when it comes to digital. And they've broken that down into three sectors, basically. The first sector that they say is what is called digitization. So the first part is digitization. What is digitization? Digitization is making digital what is not digital. For example, if you're a library and you're on the path of digitalization, then what you're doing is basically you take a paper book and you create a PDF or a digital version of it. So digitization is the digital, is making things digital that were not digital before. It focuses on pieces, parts of a product, perhaps, a part of a process, maybe 1 or 4 people in a 20 people department, that kind of idea, digitization. The second step, so the leverage of that and moving that a little higher up the value chain, or bringing that further up, if you like, is where they say it's digitalization. Digitalization is a step beyond what I just said. It's making business models more intuitive and more digital. So transforming physical processes to digital processes is digitization, creating digital versions of paperwork, for example, but having the complete business model around it and a support model for it in a digital way is digitalization. And the digital transformation part is the 360 view of that, is the learning from that, and is the journey forward out of that. which means out of digitization towards digitalization, embarking on a digital journey completely through a digital transformational process with everything in and out of it for it, where the whole industry embarks on and where the whole industry becomes enabled. That is where it started with an electronic version of a book for a library, for example. Then the whole library became a digital library. And then the whole book industry, renting out, lending, borrowing, and so on and so forth. The complete paper industry and digital industry around the world, where a library is a core part of, if you like, when it comes to knowledge sharing, when it comes to contributing to knowledge, distribution of knowledge, that whole thinking is the digital journey of digital transformation. And I think these 3 steps comprise very well how the one leads into the other and where the demarcation points are. And I think it also shows a little where the complexity sits. Because in the example of a library, for example, making a PDF or making a digital version that you can read online or that you can read on your tablet or on your computer from a physical book, and basically is of course not what the potential and what the value of everything and anything digital is about. The fact that you have a digital version or a PDF of a book allows you to read it in another way. The reason why a library exists is, as I said before, is it's a container of knowledge. So how do you move? How do you transfer and transform from having a PDF of your physical book into accessing the knowledge that comes with what is inside that book? And then applying everything that comes out of it, because you learn from it. You go through a learning curve. You have your own idea of it. There's other books that you can use. There's other knowledge that you can gather. And there is insights that you gain from it. So the knowledge that comes with having access to books in a library, either physical or digital, I think that is a core component that shows 2 things. Number one, the transformational process and the tremendous potential of all this digital that is around us already, and where it is able to go to, because that is beyond imagination. But under the hood, if you like, if you're in the car metaphors, you know, if you're looking into the nitty-gritty details of the engine that drives it, or if you want to be more metaphorical, if you want to be more in the world of dreams, you could say, you know, what is the trigger, or what is the incentive that triggers my interest, that allows me to dream beyond possibilities? But either way, whatever way you take in looking at it, the potential of all of this, and if you look under the surface, the complexity that comes with technology that is, number one, able to allow us to do this, but number two, is also able to block it all, or to diminish it all, to close it all up, and to exclude those who might need it the most, in every which way possible, where the physical infrastructures don't really touch upon the digital infrastructures and back. I think that shows you very much how the power of technology and the power of digital is eminent, and how access to it and how making use of it is not always available and should not be taken for granted. Letting it work, so allowing you and me to have this session that we have right now, which is not only about technology, but technically speaking is also about how you, where you are, and me, where I am, are also able to share information across distances, time zones, even in your particular case, in my case, right? I'm in Thailand, you're in the South African time zone. But we are device independent, we are location agnostic. You gave a fantastic introduction with the quotes out of the book you just read, with great paragraphs of beautiful writers, is another example of how technology allows us to share and distribute and contribute and work with that knowledge just as much as, technically speaking, my screen is connected via the mobile network in my office here and the wireless network, and on your side it comes down the other way around. There's other people online perhaps here who are enjoying this conversation or not, and they are messaging and WhatsApping, you know, to their peers, going like, you know, either you got to hear this or you got to see this, or maybe they talk to each other saying, I never heard more rubbish than this in my life. You know, all these kind of information streams around us are just as much examples of the complexity and the beauty of it. I think beauty sits in complexity, and complexity brings out beauty. Over to you, because I guess you have something to tap into. Over to you.
Wow, Edwin, simply brilliant. Actually, I was taking some notes down, some key takes from what you've said. And I think I would like my audience to know that, if somebody really wants to understand 101 and basics in simpler terms of what the actual digital transformation in the very emerging high-tech world we live in, and how things converge and conspire around all the technology we have, I think you've summed it up very nicely in a few minutes, because the topic is really huge. So I'll just give you a few takes of what you just said, and then I'll go to the second question. So if, to me also, it's simplifying the complexity you mentioned with the container of knowledge we have. And, and as you said, because of the way technology connects us, independent of location, and it's agnostic and time independent, it's more of a, again, I say time travel. To my audience, again, I keep saying that when I do other shows, I call my guests as time travelers, but sometimes I have the tech time travelers. So today, I think it's, if I put it rightly, I have the actual tech time traveler on my show, because we are talking about actual technology, all the high-tech things we read about, we talk about, all these fancy devices we use, where we are able to use our devices as a DSLR camera at the same time, as well as using it as a supercomputing machine, in a size of 6 to 7 inches brick in a hand. It's simply brilliant. Ed, last time when we talked and we were having a conversation, and then, sort of we agreed that technology is the ultimate equalizer for human development, for human advancement, even for different levels of the societies. Technology does give a factor of equality among different groups in certain ways. So I wanted to touch a bit of philosophical area, but obviously with the technology behind with you, that since the tech is the ultimate equalizer, how does the sustainable development goals factor around technology? The service delivery, functioning of businesses, how the societies and different functions of the tech businesses around other businesses are getting more sustainable and equal for all. And I would like you to a bit explain that how Huawei has been around SDGs and what's been their work so far. But before you answer this question, can I go back to the first question? And if you can quickly give sort of a quick use case example of classic digital transformation. Okay, let me put it that way. How Huawei, give a use case of Huawei in digital transformation to one of their customers or vendors.
Well, I don't think I should talk too much about customers and vendors, because they are very, it's up to them and on them. And some parts that we do with our customers worldwide are subject to confidentiality, other than what's already published. So if the audience of you is very interested in understanding what we do for with our partners, for our customers, in a way of approach, I'm very happy to share links and use cases that are published. I think what is not being shared widely, but is still public and available, is maybe the digital journey that Huawei has gone through and is still part of.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that.
We were founded at the end of the 1980s, 1987 to be exact. Digital didn't mean much at that time. It was there. There were things digital, of course, in the 1980s. But as a company, we were considered, you could say we were, and we still are in a certain way, a non-digital native company. That's what we are. We started manufacturing products, and these products were shipped first locally in rural areas in China, and then a little outside of China, and then all over the world. That helped build the mobile and fixed broadband communication networks that we all are part of worldwide. It doesn't matter where you are, Doesn't matter what you do, but as long as you log on or become part of communications in any shape or form that goes via and through these global networks, you're passing pieces of equipment from different technology vendors, and a predominant part of those technology pieces are carrying the logo that of the company that I'm proudly part of. But as a company, we were not a digital native company. For example, Airbnb, Groupon, Uber, what have you. When they started digital only. They didn't know anything else than to do something digital from the start. They are digital native companies. Our digital journey has started at one point with the same 3 steps as I mentioned in my answer before, in my reply. So we started with the digitization of a lot of paperwork and making that available electronically. So behind your computer, you could open a file, you could type in specific details and submit that back into a platform, as opposed to you could download a file, but you had to print it out. You had to fill it out with a pen or a pencil. You had to scan it again, so make that paper version digital again, give it a unique name, and send it to someone who would add it to a file system, for example. And we moved from digitization to digitalization. Part of our business processes and part of our business model became slightly digital. But as we progressed and as we moved on, we really embarked on this digital transformational journey. And a good example is not only the way you and I are communicating right now, but the way we are currently already providing knowledge handoff, information sessions, and linkage to people who sit and work in different industries with different purposes and different meanings and different intentions that perhaps could be very benefited and have a lot of value out of all these digital integration and digital communication technologies, but by nature didn't. For example, schools, the healthcare industry, specific now with the pandemic, bringing a hospital online, for example, or creating an online version, a digital version of physical hospital operations to make sure that the medical specialists and medical teams do not necessarily have to physically touch patients who are potentially and high risk when it comes to carrying a virus that currently spans the world, as opposed to using digital technologies and digital services to do the same, to come to the same conclusion and have the same diagnosis, but not having the risk of cross and individual spreading of infection and so on and so forth, are a few examples. Another example is internally within our company. We have 195,000 people working for us worldwide. All of them are somewhere. Imagine only what happens if one person is hired extra, who needs to have a place to sit, a place to work, a computer connection, access to systems and services, salary payment, pension and retirement, social security, very basic things, but also access to information. Maybe this is the guy who works in accounting. Maybe this is the girl who works in one of our help desks. Maybe this is a person that sits in one of our tech teams or in the engineering team or anywhere. This person needs to have a desk. This person needs to be able to have access to systems and services, expenses, travel. The light needs to stay on for this person a little longer, and so on and so forth, and so on and so forth. So one person, again, we're a 195,000 people worldwide company, so we don't hire one and we don't onboard one. We onboard thousands. We onboard thousands of people on a weekly basis, but just for one, it is already a thing to do, right? Where is this person gonna sit? Physically speaking, there needs to be a desk. Is there a desk available? Yes or no? How do we even know it? You need to talk to people. Those people are not in the office all the time. So asset management, the digitalization of assets management, having a system that tells you where your assets are, what kind of assets are available. Everything is prepared. Everything is pre-staged, pre-configured, pre-aligned. the artificial intelligent component that makes it more intuitive, that advises back to the IT management team that next time when you're onboarding 1,000 people again, then maybe this and this procedure could become obsolete, not needed. That and that procedure could be more faster or more efficient, and so on and so forth. And then we have people who are traveling. So on Monday, you're a new hire in the office. On Wednesday, you need to go to another office. Today, that means logging on to a new network. You're an external coming internal into another office in another location. If this is in the same building, fine. If this is in another building on the same campus, a little more trouble, but still fine. But if this is another building in another city, in another country, you get the idea. So all these processes and this complete digitalization, we have gone through and now have shown us that in the past 5 to 6 years, where our ambition was to double our revenue, we could have done two things. The first thing we could have done 5 years ago is we could have hired the same amount of people, so double the amount of people, give them the same target as the existing amount of people, and that would double our revenue because we got double the people doing double the work. Yeah. Physically, that is a tremendous amount of effort to do because 5 years ago, we had about 90,000 people, 95,000 people working for us, right? So double that number, onboard them, give them the same target, double our revenue. That's not what happened 5 years ago.
Wow. Wow.
But from 5, 6 years ago, if you look at our revenue 5, 6 years ago versus now, we have doubled our revenue. But we didn't double our workforce. We didn't double our procedures. What we did is we've created a digital twin of all the physical business operations within our company. And as such, we were able to accelerate not only our ambition and our market reach, but also our revenue, and therefore the percentage of an annual basis that we put back into innovation is between 12 and 15% annually every year. So if we are able to double our revenue in 5 years, 15% of the double the revenue is a higher amount of money that can go back into research and innovation as we do, as opposed to organic growth, as opposed to doing a little better what we already do best, as opposed to creating a version 2.0 of what we already have, which is only bug fixing. That's not what we talk about. We talk about industry transformation, corporate transformation, business transformation, and operational transformation across the board in our daily operations, in building management, in people management, in business management, and in risk management. And I can go on and on and on with management this and management that, but a complete digitalization process. So back to the part where you came to sustainable development. It would not make sense to do this just for the sake of digitalization and we want to double our revenue in 5 years' time. What we want to do is we want to build sustainable business models. When I was hired at the end of 2011 to help set up industry solution sales practices for the West European region, this was done to create sustainable business models. Not enter the healthcare market because it's nice to do projects, but it is nice to help move the healthcare industry higher up the value chain. Same for education, same for finance, same for banking, same for accounting, same for e-government, same for oil and gas, transportation, all these industries working together, societies. The United Nations and the Sustainable Development Goals are 17 goals. They are not much. 17 is not a large number, but each sustainable development, each goal for sustainable development is so tremendously heavy, I would say. There is so much depending on it from a society point of view. So here's where it gets philosophical. Sustainable development goal goes from 1 to 17. If you break them down and you follow 1 to 17, you will find that there are a number of sustainable development goals that relate highly to ICT, or where you could say ICT technology will drive that goal higher up the value chain than if technology would not be applied to it. You can apply technology to all the 17 sustainable development goals, but there are 4 of them that have the highest impact and the highest effect if you would try to reach those goals via means of digital. And that is goal number 4, and that relates to quality education. Relates to quality education. Huawei has a strong footprint in, but also a driving program for bringing digital to every person, home, and organization. by means of knowledge sharing and bridging digital gaps, the gap of the digital divide. And this one taps right into the Sustainable Development Goal number 4, which is a target for quality education. Another one sits with well-being, livelihood, Sustainable Development Goal number 3, digital technology, ICT technology for livelihood, creating a better societal environment, creating a better environment for the well-being of people and society, taps into healthcare, if you like, and telehealth. So where digital transformation processes for the healthcare industry are tremendously supportive to achieving and overachieving this particular Sustainable Development Goal number 3. Number 9 sits with innovation. And innovation, as I just mentioned, is a core component in our strategy, is a core component in our digital transformation process, because we put between 12 and 15% of our annual revenue always back into innovation. So if we're able to double our revenue, that 15% number becomes doubled as well. So adding to Sustainable Development Goal number 9, which is on innovation and infrastructures, is where we put a tremendous amount of effort on making an intelligent infrastructure, an infrastructure that is touching all of us. And the last one, at least for Huawei, because we are not able to support all the Sustainable Development Goals, so we selected 4, is Sustainable Development Goal number 5. And that sits with social inclusion, diversity, so D&I, diversity and inclusion, not so much urban development, but women in tech correctly. So programs like Tech for All, Tech for Good, Trust in Tech, combined with women in technology, programs for STEM, science, technology, and all these components, are programs that we have designed, that we've tailored, but that we've also added to our own way forward by joining those who already had these programs running and who were looking for either sponsorships, looking for participation, looking for executive commitment. So these 4 Sustainable Development Goals out of 17 are, I think, a nice circular division where each of the 4 pieces of this pie very nicely create not only sustainability in towards our business model, but we're using our business model to create sustainable societies. Over to you, because I feel I'm talking a bit too long.
No, not at all. That was my plan and the idea to make you talk like that. And you know that goal number 5, I'm really passionate about.
Yes, diversity is, well, I'm a strong advocate for diversity. Well, you know that we've talked about this a few times before already. We're not even on par. We're on the same page as we move along, which is very much important. The diversity, inclusion, social inclusion as part of digital transformation is of the utmost importance. I keep saying always 2 things. That technology in itself is a very neutral thing by itself. Only in vocabulary, only in grammar. Only in grammar you could say the word technology is either masculine or feminine or in between. But in itself, but that's in grammar, right? Like in French, you in the French language, it's important for proper French speaking and writing to understand the grammar and whether a particular word is feminine or masculine. But tech itself is unbiased. It can become biased the moment it goes into the hands of those who have a specific idea in mind, or a specific hunch, or a specific background from which things develop. And then technology gets the color of that, gets the shape of that. And if that's already a wrong shape to start with, it continues to maintain that wrongly shaped part within the technology that by itself is shapeless. If we're able to find a way around that or for it, or recognize it and become aware of it, and then transform it with technology that is open and transparent to be able to transform into a shape where it better fits society rather than the biased fit it came with or has been implemented with, that would be the best technology ever. And in my strong feeling, open, standardized, transparent pieces of technology. Honestly, the way Huawei brings technology to market is open, is transparent. The world is our witness in this particular case, because we are one of the few companies where every tiny bit of our technology and every large and mega bit of our technology has already been broken and torn apart and tested to the max, to show that it is stable, reliable, open, and transparent and trustworthy technology. But diversity is very high up. Yes, number 5 is the most interesting.
No, absolutely. And from a personal experience, Huawei is one of the very few companies who are very keen and serious on gender equality and gender equity and equality as a whole. And you rightly said, technology is by design, I would say, neutral, because for example, the other day, I'm a fan of fighter planes as well. So F-35 Raptor, there is a colonel lady who's one of the best fighter pilots on that very premium aircraft, and she's actually an instructor. So so F-35 doesn't know if it's a woman or a man flying it, or computer doesn't know who's behind, who's holding it. It's the use and the motive behind the tech which defines its purpose. So end of the day, tech is for the betterment of humanity. It's for good. It's the use which defines its outcome. Like drones, drones can be used for wars, but drones can be used to deliver medicine and other things, across places. Right. Just quickly before I go to another question. So it was simply fantastic. You explained the way, it was in my mind theoretically that I wanted our audience to hear about the digital transformation in terms of actual one-on-one processes, how it is actually done like a textbook, like an example, and around the SDGs work you guys are doing. And me that I always pick those phrases out of what we talk about. So few of the words which I picked up is, so basically a handoff or transceiving of knowledge and info and the access to it digitally and electronically. Then organic growth of people in industries and its transformation. And then I'm going to steal that phrase from you. Making digital twins of the procedures, processes, and acceleration of ambition, revenues, and innovation. I love that part. And then supply chain, operational management, and asset management, everything converging into its digital form. I wanted to come to our I wish we can keep on talking about these amazing topics, and they're really immersive, but we don't want to bore our audience with a very long sort of 3 to 4 hour movie. Let's keep it a series level episode. So
make it episode. Make it.
Yeah. No, we are definitely going to have part episodes of this. So you talk a lot about, and we don't talk it out of fashion, but actually I think what I've noticed is we talk about it seriously, how COVID-19 has taken on the world, how countries, people, organizations, societies are reacting and dealing with it. And it's really profound. So it's one question, but I'll just, make it part questions into one question. Pandemic is, or to me, it has been an accelerator and driver of technology. If SDGs were properly enabled in terms of an official and state policy, would the COVID-19 be in the same situation we are in now or different? And in your opinion, in effective amalgamation of SDGs and all the development goals, do you think there is a need for having them as an actual policy and rules within organizations and social setups among each countries? So give your thoughts about that. Over to you.
Yeah, I'm contemplating. There's a few things to say about it. We recently published the next version, or the next release actually, when it comes to the Global Connectivity Index and the Global Industry Vision. These are two initiatives out of our company, together with analysts and and research organizations. And what strikes me, what I thought was rather interesting, is to realize that if you look at the Global Connectivity Index, which is a top 100 of countries, and where they are with their investments, with their development in digital, and how that relates to economical developments, GDP, investments, sort of a state of the nation almost from a digital point of view. And the Global Connectivity Index is ranking countries. Country number one, of course, in that ranking does it the best. And then there is a top 10, and then there's a top 20, a top 30, a top 50. If you're below the halfway of this connectivity index, then you're a little behind. You know, that's the reasoning behind it. But what struck me by surprise is that if you look at the top 10 of the countries in this Global Connectivity Index, mind you, again, a connectivity index that gives a ranking of countries and where they are when it comes to economical development, GDP, with regards to digital transformation, digital investment, and progress, right? Whether you are a front runner or a laggard, whether you're already far ahead of the game. That's what this connectivity index shows. Back to the point. If you look at the top 10 and the countries in that top 10, in fact, if you look at the number one in that list, it is surprising that even though they are the number one or the number two, or if they are in the top 10 of this list, that apparently they've not been able to utilize that in such a way to deal with a pandemic. So if there's a relationship, between the pandemic and digital connectivity, if there is a link between dealing with measurements and having precautions and countermeasures, where digital is able to accelerate that, transform that faster, put in place systems and services and regulation faster than elsewhere, then this connectivity index is showing you something wrong. Either the connectivity is wrong, the connectivity index is wrong, or there's something else that sits behind it. And I think that something else that sits behind it is more important. I think the point I'm trying to make with this reasoning around it is you can have as much digital as you can ever have. You can put as much digital in place as you can put in place. And it can be as state of the art as it will ever be. And it gets upgrades, it gets migrated, it gets forklift upgrades, it gets replacements. But if there is no heart behind it, if the intent of that is, for example, to make technology look good, if the intent of that is to do a project, a stop and go thing, it starts and it finishes, so we're done. We need to put something in place, let's do a project. It is put in place, so now it is done. I think that is what is behind it, that puts in the Global Connectivity Index certain countries on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and anywhere in that position. But it also shows you something else. It shows you that it doesn't scale. It shows you that if you relate this connectivity index to the timelines and the way that technology transformation and digital transformation and digital services and digitalization can support with dealing with all of this, it has to be a journey. It has to be from the start and by design embedded in the intention to deal with something. Not to make technology good, but to have a program that drives it, to be part of an initiative that moves it higher up the value chain, to have a nationwide consensus, maybe even geopolitical, digitally enforced or digitally provisioned, to carry it and to drive it, not to put silos on a foundation, but to have a horizontal layer of broadband connectivity where the intellect within and all the technology pieces inside, features, functionalities, functions, can be mixed and matched and can be optimized in such a way that in this mix and match, it optimizes everything best for healthcare. And without changing that horizontal layer of technology, but by reshuffling the same pieces of technology, the same usage of the building blocks for building that foundation, the same features, the same functionalities, the same technicalities, in an other mix, optimizes best for education, e-governance, nationwide track and trace, and what have you. I think that's where digital transformation comes from and therefore goes to. And I think that is also why it is most important to recognize that digital readiness is not having the right technology in place. Digital readiness is being able to accelerate your programs and initiatives and to make the digital transformation process faster, whereby as a result, you're reaching your target, your KPIs and your goals and objectives as a passing point, not as an end point, but as a passing point on this journey. I think that's where digital readiness is about. Not having the best technology, but using the best technology with the best intent for the best purpose.
So I'll use
Over
your
to you.
So, simply profound. I love how you explained. So, you know, I was taking notes. So I think, as you said, so digital readiness is, to me, in taking your word, is more of the program behind all of this, the vision or the objective behind which will drive all of this high tech, all of these machines, all of these technologies and connectivity. So it's always the program or the goal or the objective behind it, the purpose, actually.
Technology as a vehicle and not technology as a mean.
So that country on number one is which?
Global connectivity. If you put that in your search engine, Huawei global connectivity, and then country rankings, you will find that the United States is number one on that global connectivity index. When it comes to, as I said before,
exactly
the way this index is set up, and this index is set up in terms of investment, economical development, in the means of digital, and the effect on it on the economy, and the effect and the positive effect on it on the economy, and the positive effect on it on GDP.
No, the reason I said it, actually, it was not, you know, we did smile a bit, but again, I'm not trying to be, you know, political about it, but actually we were talking about the other day, I think with you as well. You know, it makes sense what we're talking about, because I talked with you as well, and there was some other person as well, that you know, when you talk about there is something, you know, missing or something wrong, you know, to me it's an anomaly. So worldwide, that country accounts for I think 1.4%. If okay, I'm not correct on the figures, but if you take on the casualties of COVID-19, US has around 25% of the whole world, but the population is less than 5% of the whole world. And it's the most powerful, advanced, high-tech country in the world. So I think the point you were trying to make around the digital transformation and effectiveness of the programs behind it, which actually benefits societies and you know, socially at a level we are able to deal and handle situations of pandemic. So if the most powerful country has most of the debt, then what happened with the technology and all the power? That's the question. And the countries perhaps who were not even second world countries and have a lot of large populations, they have been able to, for whatever reasons, have less casualties and then able to cope up or manage much better. So I think that's where the philosophy part comes in terms of, you know, the purpose behind all of this. To conclude the session.
Silo versus integrate.
Yeah, silo
I
mentality.
think that's where it sits. It's very high up, technically speaking. It has great digital infrastructures, highly siloed. And the thing you would need from a digital transformation value point of view, and where a digital readiness comes from, is the way these different silos are able to work together or are not able to work together. And that's why I started in the beginning of this conversation by saying a horizontal layer, bridging the silos, integrating information stovepipes, and making them work together without breaking them or without making them without tearing them apart. That is what digital transformation is. So why is it not working in some countries that are very high up on a global connectivity index? Is because all the pieces of technology are siloed, including the decision-making tree around it.
Yes, exactly.
To make use of it and to make it work together as one, because we got a nationwide situation. If it is nationwide, you need a nationwide integration service. That's different from making silos work together as one, because that's what happens now. Already silos work together. People work together, agencies work together, departments work together, but systems and services that would allow them and help them. So technology that helps them to do better what they already do best is very hard to apply if everything is siloed, and if this idea of letting it work together is also a siloed idea, a verticalized thought process.
It's the mindset which is siloed, and then all the procedures as a consequence have become siloed, and perhaps it won't be incorrect to use the interoperability is not there, if we say.
Well, there might be interoperability between two silos, but the initiative or the project that has been put in place to do that, by calling it a project, it means it has a beginning and an ending. So when two silos work together now, we're done. And that is so not what it is. That's why it's not going to work. The only thing that will work in that process is that silo number one and silo number two are integrated in a certain way, but that's it. You've created another silo from two silos.
So there is no innovation and there's no sustainability. There's a start and end, which we don't.
Exactly. It's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. It's inward looking. It's blocking progress, and therefore it's not scaling, and therefore it's not going. You're ready from a digital point of view, but you're not digitally ready, because digitally ready is you're embarking on a journey, and as you're passing different stages, you are moving higher up the value chain, not by linking silo number one with silo number two, and that's it, but by continuing to move forward, to move higher up the value chain, to add additional services, and to expand from where you came from, and reuse what works best. That's not hopping, right? From one vertical to another vertical to another vertical. Do one project here, one project there, project there, project there. No, let's holistically hover above and pull up what works very well. And that is the starting point of our new foundation. And anything else is not underneath, but build on top, because the foundation is the starting point. That's already a horizontal layer of digital information technology that is capable of bridging different silos. But your foundation has been leveraged, and that's your new starting point to build the rest of your silos or initiative or your programs. The rest becomes a layered approach and not a side by side, shoulder by shoulder kind of way forward.
Exactly. So also it has to be 4-dimensional.
Yes, very much. Like a cube, which I referenced in a blog earlier this year about the different framework, about the framework that keeps the pieces of a cube together and making them move independently. So having their own identity, just like in a silo where you have your own identity, you continue to keep your own identity, your own regulations, policies, and ways of working, but you're part of a wireframe, a framework that ties it all together and that makes your independent piece move together with other independent pieces without making that framework fall apart.
Okay. I want to end this session with sort of a teaser for the audience, and also a very quick take on two things. I think it was yesterday or day before yesterday when Huawei has released this 2019 sustainability report. I had gone through briefly, and I was honestly, not that I love the brand. It is really impressive, honest and excellent work. And I really want to touch the area of 5G.
Good.
But give a quick closing remarks on my question, and then for the next part, we're going to talk about these things in detail.
Okay. So you want to ask me something about it, or you just want me to philosophize?
Philosophize.
On 5G?
Yes.
Well, 5G is not 4 plus 1G. Let's start with that philosophy. And it's also not 3G plus 2G. That's not 5G. 5G is another stage in the development of mobile connectivity, making it more intuitive, making it more inclusive, and making it more agile, and making it more intelligent. There are so many capabilities in the 5th generation, because that's what 5G means, of mobile networks that make it more safe. For example, 4G networks already are really safe, but 5G networks are safer. 4G networks are very efficient when it comes to power consumption. 5G networks are more efficient, even more efficient when it comes to power consumption. 4G networks allow us to do massive amount of things in, processed, and massive amount of things out. 5G does that tremendously amounts better, but also with a tremendously amount more. And it is agnostic, which really means that everything and anything can be connected, or already is connected, and is better connected, because each connection is beamed in such a specific way that if I am standing next to you in line at 7-Eleven, and you're at cash register number 1, and I am at cash register number 2, and we are both using mobile devices for our banking, that there is a beam via the mobile network directly to your mobile device for your unique safety, security, and privacy settings that is optimized for your payment. And a meter next to you, or less than a meter next to you, is me, who is using the same connectivity layer, but something else is beamed uniquely to me to create exactly the same, but uniquely for me, which is completely different from anybody else left and right and in front and behind me, is an example. If I'm with my children in that same line and my kids in line, because they're too young to let go and fly around 7-Eleven, in this example of 7-Eleven, so they have to stick with me. They hold their hand on the shopping cart, but maybe they got a mobile device and they do gaming, or they do whatever they want to do. Also, they and them are completely covered with high-end connectivity, highly secure, powered to the best, optimized to their unique way of working. The other way around, the people behind the cash register perhaps have mobile devices for stock rotation, scanning of barcodes and QR codes of the stuff that you're buying, the things that you need to pay. Maybe around you is other staff that keeps track of, here is 8 or 20 Coca-Cola cans in a specific aisle. Someone has bought 10 of them, so it needs to be topped up. This needs to go into a back-end information system, needs to go to stock, people in the back, you know, all this kind of stuff. Connected, connected, connected. Outside on the parking lot, the same. Connected lighting and what have you. So the world of mobile connectivity, mobile broadband connectivity in different layers is already by itself a horizontal layer that links us all. And that makes it more intuitive, makes it more intelligent, and makes it more inclusive. This mobile network doesn't care who you are and where you are. What it cares about is how to optimize everything that it has within its power to make the mobile experience or the connectivity experience for you as unique as to anybody else who stands next to it and makes use of it as well, or not make use of it. That could also be your car, because your car is connected, the bus is connected, the light post in the evening is, right, the street light is connected. The traffic lights, the South Africa, the robots, you want to have a green line if you want to go from Sandton to, you know, downtown Joburg or anywhere, right? You want to have a green line. You don't want to have the red light on the robots. You want to have the green line on the robots. So this all needs to be connected. Your car needs to understand that it's part of traffic. So left and right and in front and behind are fellow travelers, cars, buses, people, pedestrians, and what have you, all linked and all embraced and all embarked on this digital journey that mobility provides for us. Watching television in the car. Your car becomes a tablet on wheels. The display for the driver or the display on the glove compartment for the co-driver or the passenger is filled with apps. The gauge or the speedometer that tells you anything about your motor and the motor management and engine stuff are apps, which you can change. You can use the flippers for acceleration, right? For shifting up and shifting down in gears. But your manual shift or the button on your gear shift that says you go from a comfortable ride, change your motor settings to a sporty or sportive ride is an app. The navigation system in the display of your car, the audio system that tells you whether the balance of the audio, a little more treble, the equalizer for sound, the boom box and what have you in your car is an app. And if you don't want to use the display in front of you, then you can use your phone. Your phone has a similar app that logs you on to the same system. It says, okay, Daddy, I cannot hear, you know, the noise of the radio in the back of the car very well. Well, you know, use your tablet and what have you. Use your phone or your smart device. A building can get an operating system, just like your smartphone has an operating system, iOS or Android. The building becomes like a smart device where all kinds of applications allows building managers, property managers, the jurisdictional person, or you as an owner of an apartment or a condo or in a shop, use applications to manage and control everything in your home, your living room, your bedroom, your bathroom, and what have you. This all are fused with connectivity layers where more cables do not cut it. So mobile, the 5th generation of mobile networks, the mobility part of it, the huge amount of different services that it can provide and it does provide towards the different systems that make use of it. Sensors, sniffers, cameras, your phone, your building, anything that can be and will be connected. The Internet of Things is a common principle as a foundation for intelligent city construction. I think Cisco calls the Internet of Things the Internet of Everything. But everything is all, for me, everything is still very specific. Yeah. I would say it's the Internet of anything and anyone.
I like that.
And 5G,
I'm feeling that.
5G makes that cableless easier to support. 5G is also an enabler for society. The mobile network is already there, but from the mobile network, it is still not very easy for a child in a remote area or in a desert, in an isolated community to retrieve homework, attend class, elderly people via the same connectivity layer to be checked up upon by general physicians and family doctors, although the mobile network is there. 5G allows us to add services in this mobile layer that's already there that doesn't just give a link to your mobile phone, but that allows an application on that phone to have children join class, to have teachers provide knowledge and homework assignments, to have medical specialists share information, just like you and I are in different time zones, location agnostic, device independent. But imagine you and I are two highly specialists in the world of medical, and our opinion is asked for, you know, whatever our specialization is about. That's what I'm talking about. That is the value of mobility. And that is what the X generation or the Y generation or the new generation of mobile networks are coming from. So they are designed for this already. Earlier you said something like technology is, we talked about how technology is neutral, unbiased, and also by design. Yeah. I don't think necessarily the design is neutral. You gave an example of the F-35. If you look at the shape of an F-35, you could say it's designed by a guy.
Yeah.
just
You have a point.
just by that,
Yeah.
that, and I'm not even sure if that's true, to be honest, but by the shape of it and by the way it's been designed, you could say it's clearly designed by a man.
Exactly.
Because it would be,
Perhaps
if it was a woman, it would be, right, something like, or if it, so it has a bit of bias in the design. So
Exactly.
the design of things already could be a little biased, but it doesn't have the intention for it to have that bias. But it comes with, you know, the settings, the cultural environment that it's been grown up in or that it comes out of, that's been applied in designs. But the next generation of mobile networks is designed to embrace more intuitively and to provide additional services to optimize connectivity for those in an intelligent way. So the usage of it becomes more important. It is digital ready, if you like, better than the previous versions of mobile networks that is connectivity ready. It's ready to connect. It's not ready to connect with a purpose. That's what the fifth generation and onwards and next generation of mobile networks are coming from. It is designed with a purpose. Connect to do yada, yada, yada.
So fifth generation will, in simpler terms, will make anything and everything of human and business and social engagement in literal terms more wireless and more electronic and more digital. It's basically wireless. Like we would be able to do remote surgeries, remote driving.
I think we can even shorter that by not going so specific into the last technical parts. It is designed to integrate and let things and people work together and allow them to do better what they already do best. And whether that means that it happens technically, or whether that means it has become digital, or whether that means it has evolved from version 1 to version 2 is irrelevant.
Okay. Well, Edwin Deender, I'm really grateful for you to give me time to talk about these very important and immersive topics. A mate buddy from another part of the world, an original tech time traveler. So, you know, I'm making a sort of a poster hall of fame with the listing of tech time travelers, which are going to come on the shows. So as for now, you're on the list.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Really appreciate and looking forward to other parts of other areas we're going to touch with you. In the end, I would like you to, if you have a message to say a few words for the audience and for a tech industry. That's a goodbye.
Well, I've said a lot of things already. Technology allows us to do better what we already do best. And with we, I mean everyone and everything. I mean anyone and anything. Stay healthy, stay safe, but most importantly, also in these times, stay sane.
Wow, I love the part on the sane. That's absolutely correct. We need to be sane. And if you're sane, we can be healthy and we can be safe. Thank you so much. Signing off from Johannesburg, Rizwan here. Goodbye, everyone. Stay safe and stay sane, as Edwin said. Bye for now.